the Alt Asset Allocation Podcast, exploring alternative investment opportunities available to the everyday investor. Here's your host, Ben Lakoff.
Good afternoon, Drew. Excited to have you on today. Wanted to start off just by getting a little bit more about your background and how you got into crypto.
Sure. Thanks, Ben. Yeah, and so my background, I'm Drew Austin, founder of Redbeard Ventures, founder of one of the co-founders of Knights of Degen and a few other projects. I got into crypto. I've been investing in Bitcoin since 2013. Actually, I see my buddy Dan in the audience here. And we actually bought Bitcoin together in 2013. We met somebody, we met someone from, I think it was called the website was localbitcoins.com, I believe. And there was, you had to meet the person in person. It was like a drug deal. Handed him some cash, scanned a QR code. And the next thing I know, I had my first Bitcoin. So I've been in crypto since 2013. I bought my first NFTs like end of 18, early 19 from Super Rare. Started up Redbeard Ventures Syndicate, which is an AngelList syndicate that accredited investors can join and can join to invest in other companies that I'm investing in. We started that about 15 months ago or so, maybe a year and a half ago. And we've done about 85 investments so far. So we've been super active. And I'd probably say we're one of the more active Web3 investors. And I'll kind of go through the portfolio and talk through things later. But started that about 18 months ago. Now I'm raising a fund. That's a Web3 focused fund. So that's really exciting stuff. And then I'm involved in, I'm a co-founder of Knights of Degen, which is an amazing NFT project and community where we're building this like sports and media empire in the Metaverse. And I'm really pumped about all the stuff that's going on there. We can talk about that. And then I'm a part of a bunch of DAOs. So we got a lot going on. It's pretty exciting stuff.
Indeed. And this is part of the joy of the crypto market, right? There's so many different interesting, fascinating things. But man, 85 investments in 18 months. We're definitely going to get into that.
For sure.
And Knights of Degen and all the details. There's tons and tons to unpack there. But I wanted to start, and obviously right now, this is being recorded the 2nd of March. So Ukraine, there's a lot of politics and macro. So trying to stay a little bit away from that if possible, but just start by giving an overview of the crypto market, where we are right now, and kind of then transitioning a little bit more into NFTs.
Yeah, I mean, so the comparison I like to make to where I see like the NFT Web3 space right now is I look at it as similar to where we were in crypto back years back. So if you think about crypto 2010 to 2018, we were speculating, we were investing in tokens and white papers and completely like kind of forward thinking and visions, but there was no real utility. Products were still being built. We were kind of like in that phase where we were speculating on, which companies and products and ideas are going to be able to like kind of last the test of time and will sustain through a winter, et cetera. And, what happened was the ICO bubble crashed. And from there, and then the shit companies died, the good companies built. And out of that then came DeFi. And DeFi brought utility to all those tokens and then white papers that we were speculating on and took the whole space to astronomical new heights. I actually see a very similar pattern and trend happening right now in Web3 in the NFT space with NFTs. And like since 2017, 18, we've been speculating on different IP brands and different types of approaches and experiences and projects and trying to find those projects that'll stand the test of time. And, I think that at some point there will be a winter. And I think that there'll probably be two kind of major moments that are going to be the drivers of taking NFTs to new heights and bringing true utility to the space. I think one will be the play to earn gaming movement, which we can, go into in a bit. But I see that more 12 to 36 months out. I think the next 12 months are going to be a lot of shitty games coming into the market that we're going to have to dodge and weave. And then I think that from there, I think that the true organic environment that will provide native utility to NFTs is an actual interactive and immersive metaverse. So when we're all putting on VR helmets, going into the metaverse, Apple's built their VR helmet, has thrown their hat into the ring, and we're, working, living, playing, socializing in the metaverse. That's when we're going to have true utility for these NFTs. And I think that's what's going to take that will be the NFTs DeFi moment. And I think that's going to take the whole space to new heights.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot to unpack there. So I want to actually start with the metaverse. So I just listened to Lex Friedman's like 3 hour podcast with Mark Zuckerberg talking about Meta, which is, previously Facebook, and his plan for the metaverse. But there's a lot of these crypto projects that have been talking about the metaverse now with Apple and Facebook and Epic and every big company. What's your thesis on the metaverse? Is it open and more decentralized, or like, and how do those compete with these bigger, centralized, more well-funded companies like Facebook or Apple?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a role for different types of metaverses. I think there'll be niche metaverses. I think there'll be all types of things. My belief is that we are moving towards a decentralized economy, a decentralized world, and I believe in the open metaverse. But I do think that doesn't mean that there's going to be one winner per se. I think there will be various metaverses that provide different types of experiences. Like, for example, as an investor at Redbeard Ventures, like, I've invested in multiple different metaverses and have different thesis around each one. And I'll give you an example. Like, I'm an investor in Wilder World. I believe Wilder World is one of the most impressive open metaverse companies that I've ever seen, period. I think that I could picture myself in the future owning property, owning cars, having an office, having meetings, having social events, and doing that in Wilder World. So I'm definitely a believer in that being an open metaverse that is going to be a place where, we can potentially live, work, and play. But I'm also an investor in Sandbox. And I think Sandbox has positioned themselves as that could be the leading gaming metaverse, where it really kind of helps us, it kind of bridges the gap between like the Minecraft world and social networking and the ability to build this kind of like mini games within brands and properties and communities. So like I see Sandbox as being a major driver, because I also think gaming is going to be one of the major drivers, period, in Web3 of just adoption of users. But then, there's also niche metaverses like Green Park Sports. We're an investor in Green Park. They have licenses with the NBA and MLB and NFL and MLS, et cetera. And like that to me is going to be very interesting as a sports platform and a sports metaverse, and trying to take like fandom to the digital world. We're investors in Super World, which is an augmented reality layer on top of Google Earth. And to me, what I find fascinating about that one is specifically about how like physical events can have digital experiences in the metaverse. So like, is there going to be a way where through augmented reality that you are at a music festival and you can interact with whoever's owning that property in that specific land that you're standing in, on Earth, and interact with the experiences and the content that landowner has created. So there are a lot of different types of, I think, opportunities for metaverses to spring up and provide different types of unique experiences. But I do think that like at the end of the day, there will be like certain ones that will win in terms of social and work and all of that. And it's interesting to watch.
I do agree that it's not kind of a one person to win them all. There's a space for the Apple and Android, multiple different, more tailored versions for sure. When thinking about metaverse and all of these different niches within the NFT market, my next question would be about what the NFT market is so broad, but what do you see as the most overhyped segment right now, and why?
Well, I think play to earn gaming is going to be terribly overhyped for the next year. I think people are going to be throwing out like shit games for the next 12 months and taking advantage of the vision of what play to earn gaming will ultimately be, but with like some really low quality games. And I think that it's going to take us, any good game developer will kind of tell you that it takes about 2 years to build a really quality game. And, people have been working on play to earn games pretty much for the last 6 months or so. So, I think that we're going to see a movement of a lot of games that people are going to feel there's going to be rugs, there's going to be, poor experiences, there's going to be like, there's going to be some challenges, I think, in the play to earn movement. But I think actually in the next 12 to 36 months is when we're going to see the play to earn gaming economy reach incredibly new heights. And I also think there's fascinating resistance happening from the traditional gamer market and gamer audience that will also be fascinating to see, how they respond and how long it takes them to actually understand what's happening here. And that, it's like, I find the fact that these traditional gaming audiences think that, that the NFT market is out for, taking their money and all of that stuff. I find it to be crazy, like so interesting and like kind of odd because, they really don't own anything in the gaming worlds they play in today. They buy all this stuff and they leave it in the game. But the NFT market and the NFT world promises like a new world of ownership and a way that you can actually take the assets that you've earned in games and bring them to bring them to new environments or create utility outside of the gaming world altogether. So to me, I just think there's such a disconnect between traditional gaming audience and the Web3 kind of vision of gaming, and it's going to take a little while to build that bridge. And it's going to also, we're going to go through our bumps in the road because of that, because this year is going to show a lot of probably negative experiences with what play to earn can really bring. And so, but I think eventually as some of the quality game makers create games where you can actually earn within that economy and bring that out and participate in the real world, I think that's going to be a kind of driver of new users and new opportunities.
Yeah, definitely. And it's almost like a new Trojan horse for a whole new segment of people. But like you said, these games, real games that people love and care about, take a lot longer than we think to actually develop. So on the flip side of that, like what segment of the NFT market are you most bullish on right now and why?
I think personally, I'm a big believer in the DAO ecosystem. I think the DAO infrastructure, I think this is going to be a pivotal year for DAOs. I think that DAOs are going to be the foundation of how we build businesses in this Web3 world. And I think the discovery process that we're all going through to create DAOs, to understand how to organize DAOs, how to think about earning in DAOs, and there's so much interesting how to think about treasury management and voting and participation and community involvement. I just think there's tokenomics, like there's just so much to think through when it comes to DAO creation and DAO structure. That to me, that's that's like what I'm really, really excited about this year, is seeing how DAOs continue to evolve and progress and develop. I also think that, and I think it's one of the most exciting things I'm working on with Knights of Degen is thinking through how our DAO will be structured and formed, et cetera. But the other thing I think is going to be, and it's it goes hand in hand, but the other thing that I'm really excited to look into and explore and learn a lot about, and I'm very excited to see how the ape token how apes release their token is like. I think this year is also going to be a very big year for us to go from projects that have NFTs to projects that have NFTs and tokens. And I think the token economy of within NFT projects and communities is going to be really fascinating to see how that unfolds, how value accrues to different assets, how utilization of tokens can, go beyond their kind of like internal community and game and go and reach new places outside of their own ecosystem. So, this is a lot of what I'm thinking about for Knights of Degen, but also what I'm excited to learn about this year through iterations and people releasing and experimenting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there's a Packy McCormick article, It's Just Practice. And I think about this often because, there are these tokens and DAOs and all of these new experiments going on, but ultimately this is not its final form, and this is all just kind of practice for the next stage and putting these things together in new, unique ways. And the composable nature of crypto allows you to piece these things together in new ways that, yeah, it's going to be really exciting for sure. All right. So I'm curious, like you're doing a lot of investing, talking to a lot of projects. What narrative do you hear within the NFT market constantly that you disagree with, besides, I guess, play to earn being the next thing in the next 3 months?
Mm-hmm. What do I disagree with? You're saying, like, what's the common thing that people are saying I disagree with?
Exactly.
What do I disagree with? Give me an example. Tell me what you're thinking.
No, well, I mean, the play to earn being the next big thing that will be launching next month because it does take, at least 2 years to build a game that people love and care about.
Hmm.
So this, like, the narrative is that, like, throw a blockchain on the gaming and it's going to be infinitely better and it'll be ready next week.
Hmm.
So something like that, if
Yeah.
there is anything that comes to mind.
Yeah, I think that part of it is like I'm a big believer ultimately like there and this is part of the reason why I fell in love with Wilder World is like I'm a big believer in that all of this ends up like leading to a more immersive virtual world. And I'm a VR guy. Like there's AR, there's VR, there's mixed reality. I happen to be on the VR team. I think that VR is the most transformative technology I've ever kind of experienced. And I think that when we talk about a true immersive metaverse, a lot of the metaverses that are operating today are just not even close to thinking about VR, let alone building in for a VR world. And what I thought was really impressive about how Wilder World is operating is that they're building for a VR first experience. And whether VR is there or not, they're not going to be like they're not going to wait. They're going to keep building what they believe to be the appropriate and right environment for the type of experience that they want to deliver and offer to people. And that to me has just been like wildly impressive. So to me, I think that, I think we're still a ways out from what we all envision to be a truly immersive metaverse. I think we're using the word probably a little early, but it's where we're headed. And we have to build a foundation, and that's what we're doing today.
Nice. No, I love that. Um, I mean, regulation is something that comes up as like a potential hurdle for the crypto space overall. If you could wave a magic wand and change a few things to help drive the space overall forward, what would it be in regards to regulation and why?
I mean, first thing I would do is I'd get rid of the accreditation laws. I think they're total bullshit. I think accreditation laws are. I think the funny thing is, I think the reason why a lot of NFT holders are so like so passionate, so excited about this space is that it's really the first time many of them can have vested interest in a business that they are participating in. Like for example, like you might like there's just like whether it's unless it's like a public company, which you've missed all of that early stage upside. The reality is only accredited and qualified investors get the opportunity to invest in early stage venture businesses, which is the time when you actually move the needle. Like I'm seeing people in this audience right now, like I see a lot of them. Like I see Candyman, I see GWR, I see Jigga. Like these are all people that came into our community and like they affect the business. They make an impact on the business. They move the needle on what we're doing every day. And that's not something you do in a publicly traded company. So it's like for me, I'm looking at this and I'm like, wow, this is the first time that many of these people, and whether or not they specifically are accredited or not is irrelevant. It's just at a broad scale, the fact that these people can participate, have vested interest, can move the needle and help grow the value. I mean, that's what I do for a living as an early stage VC. I'm trying to find great projects to invest my capital, and then I do everything I can to support those companies. I don't get paid extra, just my return is I invested in this company and I want to see it succeed so I could get a return on my investment. And I think that a lot of these Web3 projects are, I think, unfortunately, we have to play a song and dance game and try to figure out how to maneuver in this world because the SEC hasn't really come clear with what the hell is going on, and we're all trying to figure it out. And honestly, the people that are making out best as we all experiment trying to do a song and dance to figure out how we can participate, contribute, and earn in this new world in a decentralized economy, the lawyers are probably going to be the ones that make out best because we're all running in circles trying to figure out what we can and cannot do.
Well said. I completely agree on a number of those points. That's for sure. So, talking about being a VC and making these early investments, 85 investments in 18 months, launching your next fund. I guess let's just start with the fund's investment thesis and what you aim to do differently there.
Yeah, I mean, so like I have a venture capital syndicate. called Redbeard Ventures that is an AngelList syndicate. I think AngelList is our partner and they're our administrator for the syndicate and for the fund. And on the syndicate side, we grew in the last 17, 18 months. We started with zero. I started from zero and we grew to 2,700 LPs that are now, following and backing. It's free to join and participate and to see the different deals. And we've had 2,700 people that have joined this kind of like venture community that we've created. And we've deployed about 40 million in capital, invested in over 80 companies. And the thesis for the syndicate has been frontier technology. So like I've been in kind of my whole life. I've been as a founder, I've been the cutting edge of tech. So I was early in the Google Glass space, building enterprise software on Google Glass, putting them on farmers and UPS drivers, et cetera. And over the past 6 years, I was working on an AI enterprise software platform that did recruitment process automation. We sold that company about a year ago. So I've been always kind of like pushing the boundaries of what technology can enable. And that's what a lot of this fund is about the syndicate is about frontier innovative technologies. We're investors and 75 to 80% of the deals we did this year were Web3 and blockchain, because to me that was why that was really the driver of what got me into this whole space. Was I just was watching the internet get rebuilt before my very eyes and wanted to be a part of that. But, from there, it was also, we did space deals, we've done robotics deals, we've done kind of innovative fintech deals, we've done a lot of climate deals with like, lab grown meats and things that we can do to, kind of, position society to be more efficient. So we've done some really fascinating deals, and that's what we are investing out of the syndicate. And then the fund will be a purely only Web3 blockchain fund, full stack Web3 fund, from consumer applications to infrastructure, DeFi, Metaverse, and play-to-earn gaming. But we're looking across the market because I see a lot of intersection between those sectors and how they're coming together to form what this new internet is going to be all about.
Yeah, definitely. And the lines are always blurring between all of these segments. Are these all pre-seed investment sort of things, or will you have liquid tokens, NFTs, Metaverse land, stuff like that?
Yeah, so the fund and the syndicate have been equities and tokens. It's kind of run the gamut. We kind of focus between pre-seed and Series B. I'd say has been our sweet spot, but it's equity and tokens. And then queued up to be one of the first AngelList rolling funds that will allow for NFT asset investing, because that's I think for me it's a big to be a productive investor in this space. I think you really need to come at it from a 360-degree view of how you're going to contribute value and how you're going to participate. And for us now, we have the fund, we have a syndicate, and so the fund has a pure focus. The syndicate allows our investors to co-invest and double down on deals and take and later stage and earlier stage. There's really not many constraints on the syndicate side. We have a very broad thesis on that one. It's really opportunistic. And then the NFT rolling fund, which hopefully will roll out in the next few months, will be an NFT asset fund. So again, these are the ways that we're participating with our companies and helping build out their ecosystems, et cetera. So, I've been pretty active NFT collector and investor for the last 3 years, from, art, and I'm an investor in Super Rare. And that was the first NFT I ever purchased, was a piece of art on Super Rare. And, that ended up becoming, a couple of years later, ended up becoming my first ever Redbeard investment, was their seed and their A round, and then turned out like really wonderful for us, because like they tokenized, and now we're holding substantial investment in their token.
Awesome. And I mean, just talking about early stage investments in this market, crazy bull market, I'm seeing pre-seed investment opportunities at $150 million fully diluted valuation. Like, how do you think through valuations in a market like this?
Well, I think it's interesting. It's like what we first need to do is kind of take a look at things through a new lens, because these are different types of businesses with different liquidity paths and different dilution paths. So I think the people that just kind of look at it as one-to-one, oh my God, the valuation on this traditional equity-based startup is so much lower, and the blockchain import valuations are so high. I think there's more to this than meets the eye, and there's more, and we have to kind of look at it through a new lens. So I do think that the valuations are high. I do think that we're at a little, there are deals I see sometimes with the valuations that come through that are just astronomical and make really little sense to me. But, there is also substantial upside, which is, I know a lot of investors that can tell you, especially on the token side, the token market caps can get substantially high because they're broader, their use and their utility can be far broader than just the general evaluation of a traditional company based on revenue or profits, etc. So a token utility can have a far greater market cap and have a far greater return on its investment as it grows and the utility grows. So to me, I think that there's new dynamics when it comes to understanding token valuations. I think two, there often is far less opportunities for dilution because they're not raising as many rounds and staying private for so long before they can have some type of liquidity event. And three is that the timeline to liquidity is far faster. As opposed to waiting, for 8 to 10 years till a company, sells or goes public. A company might, I might invest in an equity, and then within 2 years they tokenize and decentralize their whole business. So the liquidity opportunities are actually far faster. So, there's pros and cons, and I think you have to kind of understand. For me, I think that although we have to be disciplined in how we think about valuations and making sure that we can always, when I'm thinking about the fund, I'm looking for investments that can return the entire fund and have 50 to 100x outcomes. But, we also need to consider the fact that the valuations might be different and we have to look at it through a new lens.
No, I think that's all very valid. I'm curious how you think about or hedge potential regulatory risks associated with investing in some of these early stage projects that are, very much in regulatory gray area.
One of those things, it's tough. It's hard because it's so unknown. And it's either a part of me either feels like either you're going to play or you're not going to play. You either want to watch and let it all unfold in front of you, or you're going to get your hands dirty and play. Now, I guess the part of the hedge for me, and I get lucky in this kind of regard, is that I have investors in my fund and LPs in my fund that are really close to the ground on policymaking and dealing with the SEC and the government. So I don't want to name specific names per se, but it's some of our investors are at the ground level of working with the SEC and trying to help to get them up to speed on what's going on in crypto and Web3 and how they can not just really best support what we're doing. So I think I think there is a little bit of this disdain for anything that SEC or government involvement is, but at the end of the day, their interests are to protect and to support a flourishing financial market. So I think that if we look at it from that lens, then hopefully we have the right people on the Web3 side of things that can help bridge the gap and make sure that they're up to speed and aligned, and that on our end that we are aware of what's happening and informed and do our best to keep our ear to the ground so we know which way things are going.
No, that totally makes sense. Last one on kind of the VC fund. I'm curious your stance on anon or pseudonymous founders and where you position yourself there. And
founders that have revealed themselves and hold themselves accountable. I think the anonymous stuff is it's rough. Does that mean I won't invest? No, of course, it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that I'm a very, I try to stay open-minded and look at each situation differently. But, I'll be honest with you, I think that there's usually, I've found most projects on the Web3 side of things, there's a lot more problems on the on the anonymous side than there is on the, kind of pseudonymous revealed side. And I was a big part of what we did with Knights of Degen. We were really passionate about saying, hey, let's put our names out there. Let's put ourselves attached to this because we're, if something goes right or wrong, who to point to. You can hold us accountable. And I think that's a really powerful concept that you could be held accountable for your performance, your production, and who to point to. And you can't just go and start another project just because you had a bad day in this project. We got to build through the good times and the bad times, and our reputations are aligned to it. And I think that's a powerful needle mover.
Yeah, good stuff. Good transition into Knights of Degen. So just overview what it is and why it's important and kind of roadmap a bit would be helpful.
Yeah, of course. Knights of Degen is, it's awesome. There's just for me, it's such a such a cool thing to be involved in because, I've been a founder since I was 19 years old. And now all of a sudden I've moved on to the venture side and I'm a full-time investor. By being involved in Knights of Degen, I get to kind of have the best of both worlds where I'm a builder and I'm a creator and an operator and I work amongst a team every day. But I still, there's so much overlap and value that it creates for my venture business. It allows me the flexibility to be able to say, hey, I can invest time in Knights of Degen and know that the return on my time there isn't just realized through Knights of Degen, but it's massively realized through our fund and our ability to invest in great companies and how we can support our portfolio companies and get access to great deals. So first and foremost is like it scratches many itches for me, if you will. Second thing is that, what it is, Knights of Degen it's a community of people that share a lot of the same interests at its start. We're sports fans, we're NFT collectors, we're speculators, we invest in crypto, we invest in startups, we're kind of, really we're risky in nature, but we share a lot of the same interests and passions, and that kind of brought us together. Betting on sports and all these different things that really kind of, get us excited to speculate on the things that we enjoy to do, and to put, that's really kind of what we are. If you look at our Discord, just go through the channels in Discord, you'll really like kind of get a feel for what we're about, like really quickly. I mean, you'll see there's a sneaker culture channel, and there's a trading sports card channel, and there's a VC channel, and there's a crypto token channel, and there's an NFT alpha channel, and there's basketball, boxing, fighting, like soccer. I mean, these are, we kind of, our Discord really just kind of reflects the things that we're about and the things that we're interested in, the things that we want to talk about. So it starts at a foundational level with that community and those shared interests. And then from there, it's an amazing team. So like our team is really fucking capable. And I think that is, to me, one of the most underrated and powerful attributes of any NFT project is the fact that a great team is, we have a team that's really capable of being able to not only like push the boundaries and think creatively and experiment and have the courage to experiment, but also to execute and, put our word out there and then go deliver. So I think that the team, we have my partner, Jared Augustine, who him and I kind of like came together and got the whole thing, started. And then we brought an early founding team together of, Blake Jamieson on the art side of things and Mike O'Day. We brought on Jack Settleman. We have, Clay Sutton, who's on the marketing side, and Brendan, Jared's brother, who's on the BD and partnership side. And, we just have this like super really, Peter, our CTO, we just have like a real rock star team with amazing advisors who like aren't just advisors by name. Like, we have Jerry Ferrara, him and I do a show in the Knights of Degen Media Network. And we have Cynthia Froyland, who does a show with Jack Settleman for the Knights of Degen for the, the media network. We have Ja Rule, who does a whole bunch of stuff with us on physical events. And, we have a bunch of professional athletes like Tiki Barber, who's working with us on our fan controlled football team. And, so we have the ability to recruit the right talent to be able to take this project to blue chip and beyond levels. And we just like I say, like the first thing is like, this isn't just a PFP project, it's like, it's so much more than that, which is what's so fascinating about it, is that it's this whole kind of like, it's this whole community driven. I mean, we are, for all intents and purposes, we're as close to a DAO can be without it being ready to be a DAO. I mean, and I'll go into details on what that means, but we are building a decentralized sports and entertainment brand that is native and was born into Web3. So, everything we think about is how to be a true Web3 company in this world, and how do we provide a platform for community participation, community contribution, and then ultimately community earnings is really what we ultimately want to achieve in our efforts here. And that's our long-term and short-term and medium-term vision. That's like what we think about every day, is how do we build a company that's far greater than the core contributing team, but it's just as valuable and important are the community committees and teams that form to take some of these projects and initiatives and take them forward. And there's going to be a lot of opportunity for, and that's what we were about. Like, that's how I believe, that's what I think DAOs are about, is that they're a platform for people to contribute and earn. And that's why we're going to see a lot of really interesting things with tokens and a lot of really interesting things with DAOs. And, we're building with that in mind. It's like every project we focus on and create, every venture we create, like, we don't look at it as like, oh shit, like we can't handle it because we're too small of a team. We're like, no, we can do this. And we're going to tap into our community, and we're going to find the best people in our community, and they're going to be part of our team as an extension of us. And we're going to go out and freaking execute. And that's kind of how we've been about.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think you're one of the rare operator and investors in the space, and so it's always nice to see that juggling of the both. So I'm curious, knowing what you know now, what would you do differently if you could do Knights of Degen over again, or what like learnings do you have now that you wish you would have applied?
I mean, we've learned an absolute ton, but I think the learnings we've had is because we've went through the experience that we did. So, like, in saying what would we do differently, like, of course, like, do I want our price to be higher? Do I want the floor to be higher? Of course, you always want that. But I always think that, like, I say this all the time, I think we built and we continue to build the most sustainable kind of price action, but also just like general foundation of a business that, as people find out about our project, are going to think it's a no-brainer to be buying our NFTs. And I have zero doubt that we become a more valuable and higher priced project as we grow. So, like, to me, it's like, it's not really about like what I do differently. I think we built an amazing team. So I have no, and our mint process was smooth as hell, thankfully to Peter, because he's an absolute badass. And our community management, I can't tell you, we got very lucky. Like, we have, like, I see, I think Pizza's in the audience here, but like, we got really lucky. Like, we had I don't think we ever probably imagined how important community management and our Discord mods would be, etc. And we just got really lucky that some people gravitated to our vision and our brand early, and then helped carry us and really took this to the next level, because we're going to make mistakes, and we're comfortable with that. Like, we know that, and we try to be explicit about this, like, that we're in this for a long term. We're a marathon, we're not a sprint. We're going to experiment, and if shit doesn't work, then we'll throw it away and try the next thing. Like, we're not going anywhere because we try an idea and it doesn't work. That's just not, in this world where there's so much green field, experimentation should be celebrated more than ever before. So I'm a huge believer in the fact that, like, I tell our team this all the time. I'm like, yo, let's go out, let's swing for the fucking fences, let's take some shots. If it doesn't work, big fucking deal. We'll go out and we'll throw it away. We'll have learned, and we'll come back and we'll try something else. So I think this is a process of learning and discovery that is really critical. And the faster you can experiment, the faster you can learn, the better. So it's funny, like, it's like weird to think back on this all and say, like, I'm not sure what I would do differently. I'm sure, like, there's people in the audience. GWR will tell me a few things I could do differently, but
there's always somebody that will. That's true.
I see him in the audience, and there's a few people in here that'll tell me a few things that we should have done differently. But, like, our community holds us accountable. You know what I mean? They do, and they have passion. I'd rather have a passionate community that gives us their opinions every day than a community that doesn't give a shit, like, without a doubt. So for me, I think that, like, it's not really about what we do differently. It's like, kind of like, what are we learning every day and how do we continue to grow? And I think the biggest learning and the biggest like advice that I could share is just how important and how valuable it is to have a really strong community strategy. Because to me, that's what it's all about. That's everything. So for me, that's the biggest learning, is that we build everything with the community in mind, and we try to keep the community involved as much as possible without it being a friction or a delay to our ability to go out and build this business. So any opportunity we have to incorporate either the community council, which is, I could tell you about that in a minute, but like the community council, who's like literally, the community council is like part of our Slack, like straight up. Like, we have an entire community group that were elected officials of our community that represent the community and are the voice of the community and are not part of our core contributor team, that have a dedicated channel for them in our Slack that so we can communicate in real time about the business activities, because we want them to be abreast of things as much as possible. So like, that's I think getting the community involved, building out projects that they can actually contribute to and be a part of, and really have vested skin in the game on this venture, I think is so critical.
Yeah, and I think that's like an eternal battle of trying to find the balance between including the entire group and getting everybody's thoughts and opinions and stuff versus, a smaller, more centralized, we're going this way because we need to move fast. So that's an eternal struggle, that's for sure. Speaking of internal struggle, I'm curious how you manage your time between Discord and Telegram and all the different channels, 85 different investments, and Knights of Degen having such a robust Discord. Hopefully you have some sort of productivity hack, asking for a friend.
Yeah, of course. I mean, first is build great teams around you. So like, I'm a big believer in building infrastructure to support your ability to scale. So, we have I partner and I hire and I work with really great people that can enable us to, that can enable me to do what I do best and not get bogged down in the shit that I just shouldn't be dealing with and shit that I shouldn't be spending time on. So that's first and foremost, it comes down to team. Second is like, I happen to be in this world where almost everything I do overlaps, which is amazing for me because it allows my hobbies and my passions and my fun time, my downtime is still contributing to all the shit that I do for a living. So like, like if I'm watching a Knick game, I end up doing a podcast about it with Jerry Ferrara, or if I'm going to go watch spending a day watching football, I talk in Discord with my community. Or if I'm going to invest in Wilder World, I make sure that Knights of Degen is the first tavern and the first piece of commercial land ever released in that ecosystem. We're investors in Sandbox, and Knights of Degen is building out a play-to-earn kingdom in Sandbox, and like that allows us to find so much overlap in the things that I'm doing that the way I see it is like I've built these like platforms that enabled me to support my portfolio at scale. So, I'm part of a DAO that, we created that's called Meta Collective, which is like 25 investors. We own 30 investors, 25 pieces of land, all connected right by the Bored Ape Yacht Club and Sandbox. And it's a DAO that's basically with the vision of creating a college campus lifestyle in the metaverse, like a true campus in the metaverse. And I'm really excited about it. It's an amazing group of people involved. But I do that, and I do these things because I want to understand what it takes to build in real estate in the metaverse and find out where the gaps are, where are the opportunities, what type of technology is going to be needed. What is it like to procure real estate in the metaverse? Like, how can I prove to take this campus and create space and opportunities for my portfolio companies to be able to have representation and a presence in virtual worlds? So like, all of these things to me connect the dots to be able to build this kind of like this ecosystem. And that's the kind of way I think about it, is like, think about it from an ecosystem perspective, and then build platforms that give you leverage to be able to support more things at scale and have great teams in place that enable you to do what you do best and not waste time.
Where can people find out more about you, your fund, Knights of Degen? Where would you like to send people?
Yeah, I mean, Knights of Degen, you can find us at Knights of Degen on Twitter, on OpenSea. You can find our project at Knights of Degen. It's an amazing NFT project. And it's an amazing Discord, and go to our Twitter handle and you'll see all the links and everything you need to find there. But definitely check it out. Redbeard.ventures is my AngelList syndicate, and that'll take you everything else. That's where I live on AngelList, and you can find me on Twitter at Drew Austin, which you can just click a button right now in front of you and see that. But yeah, I mean, that's where I spend my time. I'm on Twitter. I'm in all the different messaging channels and platforms, etc. But I would definitely check out the Knights of Degen Discord and check out Redbeard.ventures on the AngelList syndicate side.
Awesome. Well, excited to have you on today. Really appreciate it. And yeah, looking forward to watching you grow and expand. It's been awesome.
There you have it. Thank you for listening. Really appreciate your support. Show notes, transcript, links, and more can be found on our website at altassetallocation.com. If you'd be so kind, please share this with anyone you think might be interested or get some value from this conversation. If you have any questions or comments, please reach out. I'm always happy to hear them. Lastly, if you're on YouTube, please like the video or subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to the audio version of this, please subscribe to the podcast and or leave a review. This really helps more people find the podcast, and I really appreciate it. Thanks again, and hope you have a fantastic day. Happy investing. Happy investing. Happy investing. Happy investing. Happy investing.